that actually kind of takes us to one of the points of the She-Hulk stuff that came out in those articles. And I think we may be working on a video about it too, with the whole Jessica Gao thing, where she tells this elaborate story about the writer's room and how she damn near walked off the show. Do you guys buy any of that bullshit at all in that story? Because I mean, there may be some truth to certain aspects of it, but I don't think it went down the way it went down, because to me, it sounds like a story that's being told in a way that she's like, nah, I'm a woman and I got one up on Kevin Feige.
For those that aren't familiar with it, Tom, very briefly recap the story.
Maybe Culture could tell it better than I could.
But, no, it's up to you, dude. I ain't going to recap.
All right. Well, the short version is they got into an argument, supposedly, allegedly. I'm going to say this, allegedly, because I don't buy this story.
Well, it comes straight from Jessica Gao herself. She's the one who said
and there's
this,
more to this, but I'm going to save that for the video. There's a little bit more to it, but I'm saving that bit for the video. But anyway, the main bit is this. She claims that during the writing session for the finale, they have to run everything pretty much through Kevin Feige, which we already know. And according to her, they approved he approved all the crazy shit they wanted to do up to the point of the finale, where in the finale they have Kevin as a robot, and she wanted a hat on the robot. And according to the story, Kevin thought that was stupid and didn't make any sense. And she felt so passionate about it that she put her job on the line for that one specific joke. And through some mediation after the fact, because she said, if Kevin doesn't get the hat in the show, then I'm walking. And he's like, according to her, well, it was nice working with you. We're glad, we're so proud of all the work you have done. We're so sad to see you go, kind of thing. So according to me, I don't know who went, but yeah, that's exactly what I felt. Thank you, Chris. I'm so glad it was you.
I do not believe that happened.
I thought it was Culture for a second, but I'm glad it was you, because I want to hear your take right away.
No.
But there's a little bit more to it. So there was a little bit of mediation, and I can't remember who did it, but according to somebody came up with the idea, well, why don't we make it part of the machine?
A man came up with the idea.
Yeah, anyway, I can't remember who it was specifically, but that, of course, was enough to get Kevin to supposedly go, oh, well, that makes sense. And to me, the whole story makes Kevin sound like a complete moron. So anyway, Chris, like right off the bat.
Really? It makes Jessica Gao sound like a complete
both
moron.
of them sound like morons. Yeah, anyway, the whole thing sounds moronic to me. But anyway, Chris, go ahead, your reaction, because I love
I think a version of that story did actually happen, but most of this was done in jest. She didn't actually leave the show over like putting a hat on the robot. That's stupid. But they did. It's subtle in the actual show, because I didn't even notice it till it was pointed out on social media.
Right.
That it sort of like the cover, the shade that goes over the lens, which is an actual thing. It looks kind of like a TV camera is what the robot looks like. The face of the robot. And it, okay, fine. It looks like a hat, or you could say it kind of looks like a hat, but no way was this as dramatic as she makes it out to be. I'm sure it was all in jest. I worked at big companies and people joke to kind of like let off steam, but I think a version of that exists, but she over dramatized it for that story for sure.
Well, it kind of brings me back to the whole no second season thing.
Right.
I mean, this supposedly happened at the 0 hour of the show. Like she was really putting herself on the fucking train tracks. She was like literally after the last car passed.
Right.
Then she threw herself on the train track. But if this story's true, but Script, you as somebody who's been in the writer's room before, do you buy this story?
I'm 50-50 on it, because I have seen really stubborn people fight with producers and execs for a joke or a thing. However, when the producer exec doesn't get it, usually their first instinct is to understand why they don't get it and then bridge away or compromise to achieve the outcome, which means that if you're a really good showrunner, writer, or creator, and they say, oh, I don't buy a baseball hat on top of a robot, it would be, but the joke is like, oh, we're making fun of this affectation with the person we're parodying, then a good writer would be like, okay, well, what if the first thing they'd say is, well, what if we incorporate the hat into the physical design of the thing? Because that's what you do. It's like the joke is that you're iconic because of the hat. And we want to want to bridge that together. Because Jessica Gao didn't come up with that idea, and she tells the story, which basically humiliates her, saying, I'm not smart enough to come up with the idea to have gotten this joke done. I had to have this other guy in the room do it. That's part of the reason why I think there's some truth to it, because only an arrogant person would not see that that would make them look incredibly idiotic and unqualified for the job. I've also seen writers where they have literally fought against a joke and did threaten to quit and were fired because of it. They said they were writers in the show fighting against the showrunner. The showrunner didn't like the joke. The joke wasn't very good. And the writer said, you don't put it in there, I quit. And the showrunner said, okay, sorry to see you go. Bye. That was it. And there was no walking it back. And they got really upset and were terrified because they thought they had more clout and weight in the show than initially was the case. So those situations do happen. They don't usually make the trades because the agents and managers are usually fighting to keep that out. But yeah, there are stuff that is like that. And I tweeted that. I don't know if it's true or not, but if I were in Kevin Feige's position and a showrunner came to me with a joke that I didn't get, and someone else in the room solved it so that I could get it and get on board, I'm still firing that showrunner, because if they make a threat to leave over one joke and then they don't care about the show, they don't care about the product, they care more about themselves. And I don't see that as a positive work ethic. And if the other person who came up with the idea to solve it is telling me that they care about the show, they care about the idea, they see the potential of the joke that I don't, and they found a way for me to get it. Like, they're showing more professionalism and work ethic in that moment than the showrunner is. And I would be like, okay, you're fired. And then I would subtly say to myself, I can't believe I hired that person. I'm an idiot. I hope nobody realizes this. Let's get someone new and fix this up so that whatever damage has been done can be mitigated.
Yeah,
that's what I got from this story.
I was gonna say, it's interesting you say that, because there is a stinger to that, but I'm saving that for the video. Yeah. But anyway, Andre and then culture.
Yeah, like that was my whole take with it. Like, why would she share this? Because what she said is that basically I threatened to have this in there, and then you would think that Kevin Feige would, no, please, I need you, we'll do it. But no, it's like, okay, there's the door, and she would have been sent out that door packing unless this other person had been able to come up with like a medium ground that they could all agree on.
I still think it's all
she just said that Jessica Gao was about to be fired there.
I just think it's all convenient that it's on the last episode of the season too. That's the thing that I think is hilarious to me.
I'm on board with you there, Tom. I think
it's also the only funny thing of the entire show. I think the idea of a Kevin robot is clever, and I think using the lens hood as his iconic hat is clever. It's far too clever for everything else that has happened in this show. And the idea and concept, I think, would have been fantastic. As I mentioned before, an unstoppable force versus an immovable object. She-Hulk figures out in the midst of the series that there's all these random events happening that are forcing her to turn into She-Hulk when she doesn't want to, and she realizes, oh my God, the head of the studio of Marvel is manipulating my show so that I'm more She-Hulk than I am Jen, and I don't like that, and now I'm trying to take it back from him. And that would have made a great show. And that idea happened. The seed of that idea is planted so late into the game that you're like, yep, these people are idiots. They come up with something great and they completely throw it away because it's not worth exploring.
Yeah, you could have sprinkled stuff in throughout the show to set this up. But Culture, you were about to say that.
Yeah, sorry, Culture.
No, it's okay. You guys have a lot more to add to this than I do, because I'm going to say this is completely drummed up, and this is the narcissism of this particular showrunner taking over here. I think that, in order to try to, lend any kind of credibility to her, running She-Hulk, she fabricated this story, maybe not out of whole cloth, but maybe, everything is just much greater, more embellished than even the actual conversation was. Because I don't imagine this was a confrontation. I think it was like, well, what if we do X? Right? Now, I'm going to walk out the door. So like I said, she's trying to puff up her chest because literally this show was losing viewers as it continued on down the track. And the only reason that it cracked the top 10 at all in the Nielsen streaming ratings was essentially because there were 4 episodes of it that became available at one point in time. Otherwise, this thing never cracks the top 10. If this were standalone, Yeah, and I'm sorry. I mean, nobody is interested in this, in this show, and the interest fell off. It's the same with all of this stuff we've been talking about. But I don't believe the story for a minute. And that's, I guess, the whole summation of what I was going to say.
No, I agree with you there, Culture. That's pretty much what I was going to get to. And yeah, I think we may have a video on this coming soon. And yeah, I think that I don't think there is a season 2 for this show. I don't think it was ever really in the cards to begin with, unless this show was a huge fucking hit, because all we know from here on out is she's got a buttload of cameos. And I think that's really kind of the plan, is so they have her in all these other cameos and other things coming up here to fill in, and because Mark Ruffalo's expensive.
Well, I think the cameos saved the show, right? If it was only her, would we care? I don't know. Like,
if they had a decent show, yes.
Right. But we haven't seen that. Like I say, I feel like they're 0-9 now. There isn't one single Disney Plus Marvel show that is worthwhile. I think
the only one I liked personally, and I liked it all the way up until the last episode, Chris. It was Hawkeye.
Oh, okay.
It was surprisingly better than I thought it was going to be. And then that last episode completely screwed the pooch and became everything that everybody accused the show or thought the show was going to be.
Exactly.
But up to that point, they had managed to make her not obnoxious and not like she was going to just try and take over. She actually admired him. You know, I kind of liked that, you know, being that he was one of the humans of the Avengers. I didn't mind the battle damage aspect of Hawkeye. Like, I mean, yeah, I mean, of course he's going to be half deaf because he's been through all this shit and, you know, got a lot of cricks and snap crackles and pops every morning. I didn't mind that aspect of the character. And they made what's her face's character more likable than she was in the comics, I guess, from what I've heard too. And I wasn't familiar with the comics as much, so I didn't really have that attachment, or I had a disassociation with it, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, that last episode, it just completely fucked it up for me. And every other show, like you, Chris, I have fallen out. I've watched one episode of Loki, none of the Winter Soldier show, half of WandaVision, and what other shows was there so far?
Moon Knight. Did you see
Moon Knight? I watched like 2 or 3 episodes of Moon Knight and fell out.
Like I say, the only show I finished is She-Hulk out of morbid curiosity. And
3 episodes of She-Hulk, or 3.5 if you count this last episode. Anyway,
I mean, I think the Daredevil episode being on the second to last is probably what they were hoping on, because people wanted to see that. And aside from that last shot of Daredevil, they actually did him kind of justice with his character. He wasn't humiliated or second fiddle to anything. He actually kind of mocked Jen more than you'd expect.
Right. I like what Bev Bourne says here. Hawkeye was super okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
It wasn't even great. It was just super okay.
Well, but see, that's funny because, you know, when we're all laughing at it, that comment, because it's true. Our quality of entertainment has been just so low. The bar for quality entertainment has just been lowered so far that I think if anything is just somewhat watchable, it's getting high marks. That's terrible. I mean, it's why when you get something refreshing, and I'm going to say Chris's favorite thing, when you get something, you know, enjoyable like RRR, it's a breath of fresh air because you're like, holy crap, I've been missing this for a long time.
Exactly.
You know, yeah, and so it's just it speaks to the fact that you are getting content filler, and as Chris just said, they're 0-9 for giving you anything of quality.